Oh, hey, look, it's this asshole. By the way, notice he's wearing a shirt that says 45th and 47th, meaning that his dad is going to win the second time. And this is one of the, it's not a corner in New York City where if you walk down it, you'll get hit by a baseball bat wrapped in an American flag. Or I guess a Blue Lives Matter flag if you're a police officer. Watch. The media ignores Hunter Biden Twitter bombshells because, of course. Guys.
Well, guys, amazing stuff.
Well, guys, amazing stuff. I'm fucked up, guys.
Apparently, the Hunter Biden laptop
doesn't exist. Doesn't exist.
It's an issue. It's old news.
Well, it's a myth. It's old news like the Kraken, and I don't mean the Sidney Powell one. I mean the one from Clash of the Titans, which is a really fun movie and great work by Ray Harryhausen. I'm just saying, the original.
That's according to the White House press secretary and basically everyone else in the media and the press corps.
And it makes my beard hurt. And Hal Sparks, who, but for some rando Twitter heads, no one has successfully added me about any of this shit. How do we jumpstart this? Because it's such a stupid story.
It's old news, guys, because they want it to be.
No, because it didn't pan out so many times and nobody gives a shit.
You wouldn't think that it would be old news to find that people in the government colluding with big tech to suppress a story to get a result.
Your dad was in government, dumb fuck. Your dad did the same thing, and he was president at the time. The Biden campaign was just that, a campaign, dipshit.
That they got. You wouldn't think that'd be old news.
Yeah, I would. I do think it's good. Matter because your dad fucking lost 2 years ago.
You would think that if it was the other...
Would I? Would I, though? Would I?
Other way, that'd be an assault on democracy, right? Just like Hakeem Jeffries can become the top Democrat in the House. And even though he's an election denier, you don't hear anything about that. Because if you deny elections where Republicans win, that's obviously acceptable. So this proves a major point.
Well, yeah, you got... And by the way, what he's referencing, of course, is like the denial of voting machines in predominantly black districts in the past and things like that, or the attempts by Republicans all over the country to stifle the black vote through a myriad of stopgaps that they can, install, or to overtake the will of the people by installing their own electors and that kind of stuff. That's very different from saying it was rigged and stolen and I'm still president. Burn the Constitution, put me back in there, turn those machines back on, sell.
What I've been making as of late, it's good that we see the Twitter information now, I guess.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar. Run that by me again. What was that?
Jeffries can become the top Democrat in the House, and even though he's an election denier, you don't hear anything about that. Because if you deny elections where Republicans win, that's obviously acceptable. So this proves a major point of what I've been making as of late. It's good that we see the Twitter information.
It is good that we see the Twigger information. Now, for those of you that don't know, there's a bad Twitter copycat for Roy Rogers fans.
Now, I guess, even if it's...
Twigger. It's for people, it's Elmer Fudd and Roy Rogers fans have gotten together.
Old news, and even if they got the result that they want, at least people can start to see how biased these things are, right?
Yeah, the things are biased. You can see how these things are biased and what he's been saying, and he said these things, and so they've been said, so I don't understand Twigger.
Do you really think at this point that there's any difference whatsoever between what was happening at Twitter and what happens every day at MSNBC?
Well, sure. I mean, arguably MSNBC has an editorial board and they are specifically crafting stories, and Twitter is responding to a myriad of things. Like there's a very small chance that random users in, I don't know, Tennessee or the Philippines or Mexico could post pictures of children for sale, for example, and MSNBC has to have an entire group of people who has to watch channels all day long and bat that shit down. Like, it just doesn't come up.
Or CBS or ABC News.
Well, obviously not CBS. Probably ABC. It's a Disney thing, probably.
Or any of them.
Any of them. Fox, OAN, Newsmax. Oh, sorry. Right, we were talking about real networks. That's my bad.
Do you think it's any less biased there? No, they just get to hide under the cloak of, we're doing journalism.
They are doing journalism, stupid. Those are news organizations. Specifically, the social media groups don't do journalism. They have to have some sort of terms of service and some way to enforce that. But they didn't, by the way, none of them crafted the story. None of them, because we've had stories in the past of, at like CNN and other places where, or newspapers where pharmaceutical companies have helped craft the actual language in a story, pro or con one of their treatments, pro or con one of their business deals. And that's been a scandal. Twitter might, stiff arm some stuff because they don't know quite how to handle it because it was obviously fake. And it was an October surprise, and you guys are just pissed that your October surprise was the worst October surprise ever.
We won't.
Sorry, is my cursor in the way? Is it bothering people with a little yellow arrow? Beg your pardon. But yeah, there's a singular difference.
Cover the biggest story. We won't cover that like 30 or 50 of the biggest intelligence people in the world
recognized a Russian hoax when they saw one and totally shot a hole in Rudy Giuliani's collusion dinghy.
All signed on to a letter like, yeah, this is obviously Russian disinformation, when it clearly wasn't.
No, it clearly was.
When our
clearly still is.
Director of national intelligence,
Sorry, of who?
World. All signed on to a letter like, yeah, this is obviously Russian disinformation, when it clearly wasn't. When our director of national intelligence, came
our director of national intelligence
out and said, John Ratcliffe literally came out and said, there's nothing here that says this would be Russian disinformation. Doesn't matter. We're here to deliver a message, and we're going to get what we want out there. And when we,
well, maybe you know what, guys, maybe it's just that you suck. Maybe your dad isn't the media mastermind everybody thought he was. Maybe that's what this boils down to. That is this mythology about Trump as a master businessman and a master manipulator of the media. And the idea, it turns out actually that he was just riding he was like shit surfing on the back of, he was boogie boarding on idiots and gullible fucks in the New York media system for a long time because they didn't really give a shit. And then when they had to take a hard look, it was hard to shake that habit. And then some of them looked and were crossing paths with the I didn't really give a shit crowd. And that's what jumbled the messaging that even allowed him to be president in the first fucking place.
Find out and get caught. Doesn't matter because we got what we wanted. Therefore, it's old news.
It is old news. Yeah, that is true.
Again, it wouldn't be old news if Trump did this to Biden or...
Well, no, it would be amazing because he would have had to craft something like this and he's totally incapable of doing it and he wouldn't have convinced anybody oh wait, he did do this to Biden and it still didn't work. That explains it.
If Bush did this to Obama, it would be a huge scandal.
Right. Because Obama in this scenario, I suppose, is not guilty of anything, and Bush would have had no reason to do it. And also kinder, gentler times.
People in government, people as part of campaigns, people who then assume positions, colluding with big tech to influence elections. That would be problematic, right? That would be a threat to democracy.
Not really.
In the meantime,
again, this is like the consultant argument that Kellyanne Conway was making. Like at a certain point, isn't it your dad's election to lose?
President says that the 75 million or so Americans that voted for Donald Trump, they're the biggest threat to freedom and democracy, right?
No. And again, this is the whole like lump the maggots and the deplorables in with all Republican voters, and that the idea is that, you know, it's next stop FEMA camp.
I'll say that on a public stage, but the people who did that...
By the way, he didn't say that on a public stage. As a matter of fact, he said quite the opposite. He said there's normal Republicans, which are the majority of them, which may or may not even be true at this point, depending on who's you believe have left the party. But he might still be talking to like Republicans who now call themselves independents because they're so fucking embarrassed by this guy's dad. That lump works for me. It may not work for him, but it doesn't matter. He wants MAGA to mean the whole party. That's what this is about. MAGA is getting, you know, is drifting away from any meaning at all. His father is losing control. The maggots are dwindling down into a little QAnon puff. And they're being left behind by everybody else who can't stiff-arm Trump fast enough. So this whole thing is like, no. MAGA is the Republican Party. The Republican Party is MAGA. And by the way, that was the entire purpose of Biden's red speech, was to keep Trump from being, you know, the Republican Party from being able to distance themselves from Trump right before the midterms. Besides the fact that he had to address the violence that had just happened against Paul Pelosi, the reason for doing it in that fashion was that he knew Trump would take the bait and jump right in and go, no, they are me and I am them. You like that freeze frame?
Twitter or with Twitter, old news.
With Twigger.
But that's the point, guys.
What is the point? Please get to the point. I don't know what the point is. It's 2 minutes and 42 seconds into this piece of shit video. I'm tired. I was driving. I was singing late last night. Got up, did a show. Got in my car, drove as fast as I could to get here, and I'm still not convinced. Sell it, big boy.
It's not just Twitter.
Oh, thank God.
I'm glad
it's MySpace.
People are finally seeing it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Glad they can't hide from it, though they will try, as they have, to pretend the story doesn't exist, to suppress the story, to make sure people don't realize just how corrupted and pathetic these institutions are.
Well, now that Elon's taken it over, sure.
But hopefully everyone will see it. Hopefully people...
Guys, don't let it happen. Can't do this. We've got to change this. Don't let it happen. End of video. My little timer's going off. I'm looking at my notes. Don't let it happen. Also, thanks to everybody who gave me the big prostate massager insertable that is up there on the mantle. Believe me, it gets way too much use.
People will stop trusting these people, because until we do that...
You mean your dad?
We don't actually have a chance of ever getting to the truth, because, again, they can do these things and ultimately they're rewarded with a win. They get what they want. They get a slap on the wrist 2 years later a little bit. It barely gets any coverage and they go back to doing the same thing over and again.
Over and again. Yeah. Don't let it happen. Gotta watch it. Let it happen.
Let it happen.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know what the fuck this, like, don't let it happen thing. Like, he ends most of these videos this way. And I gotta say, if he wasn't such a complete wimp, this would strike me as a call to violence. Because what else is it but to say to like your most hardcore maggots and the QAnons who are looking for, you know, to decode every fucking statement when you say don't let it happen? Well, what's your fucking option here? You're going to lose in court. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know, it's a sucker's game they played over and fucking over again. But ultimately, the end of it, he always ends with "Don't let it happen," which sounds like, you know, a super subtle take up arms bullshit. I mean, like if he only did it occasionally, it'd be one thing. But it's like and it might just be a verbal tick because he's a fucking moron. There's always that chance. And Occam's rubber mallet suggests that this dumbass just thinks it sounds like a leadership phrase to him. Unfortunately, to a bunch of these dipshits, it's going to sound like, get your AR. And like I said, there's not going to be a civil war. It's not going to be a mass of people. But the occasional asshole that pops off and hurts somebody from any of this shit, it's going to be phrases like that.
We got to stop it, guys.
Yeah. Hey,
don't let it happen. We got to stop it, guys. That's the whole thing. By the way, he posted that. I didn't. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide.